It's my honor to share this moment with Reverend Joseph Ben-David.
Let me address you the way we address our people in Prague, my beloved Unitarian brothers and sisters. Now let me give you another kind of story about my mentor, my teacher, Dr. Norbert F. He was a Renaissance man. He was a journalist. He was a psychologist. When I came for the first time to the Unitarian Church in Prague, the year was 1937. And I was attending and speaking at a rally of the League Against Nazism and Fascism. It was the first time that I was exposed to this church, which at that time was already a large church. As a matter of fact, it was the largest church, Unitarian church in the world. We had 3,000 members, actually 3,200 members, and a Sunday school of about 300 children. And so I met Capek and became eventually the cultural secretary of the Unitarian youth in Prague. It was also a kind of an anti-Nazi action group. Now, Capek was able to build up this Unitarian Society. They didn't call themselves a church, they called themselves a society. From a handful of people to this major religious institution in the Czechoslovak Republic. Now, what was the secret of his success? You see, people didn't come to us just because they wanted to feel better on a Sunday morning. They came to us because they have gotten something so profoundly human that it shattered their entire being. Because Capek was inducing reality and truth. See, he was not talking about some kind of a beautiful God somewhere. He says, no. If we want to talk about God, we have to look into nature. We have to see the process, the creative process in nature, the dynamic of nature. And there we will find the mysterium tremendum, the great mystery which underlies the process of living, and not just that, but producing a human culture on the highest level. And so he wanted to change people. And people were coming to us because what they were getting was human. He was, for example, teaching us psychology. When I was 17, 18 years old, I already knew about Sigmund Freud, about Carl Jung, and about all these, humanistic psychologists. And he was helping us to develop human relationships which were such that they provided us with the maximum or with the optimum measure of happiness. And so, just a word about his life. He was first a Catholic. Then Catholicism appeared to him as religious tyranny. And he changed and became a Baptist. And so, as a Baptist, he was actually the leader of the Baptist movement in Czechoslovakia. And when, during World War I, he was born 1870 or so. he was speaking very powerfully against the Austro-Hungarian tyranny that at that time subjugated the Czech people, and Bohemia and Moravia were part of the Austro-Hungarian monarchy. And so the Secret Service was already after him, and he had to flee, and he came to the United States. Now he came back after the liberation in 1918, and I have a special soft spot for that moment, because my own father gave the signal to the revolutionary movement through Prague when the people were tearing down the statues of the Kaiser, and, you know, like, was the moment of liberation, and Capek was all with that. And then came the second disaster, 1933, 1937, 1939. Hitler occupied Czechoslovakia. And again, Capek, in his preaching, was denouncing the tyranny of Nazism. And of course, the Gestapo was behind him, after him. They were all infiltrating the Unitarian services. And eventually, Capek had to flee again, but he came back because he wanted to be with his own people. And then the horrible thing happened. He had a radio where he could listen foreign broadcasting. And one day, because they were also, of course, spying him, so they came into his house, the Secret Service, and they found the radio stopped on the spot where he was listening British stations. So they took him to Dachau, and there he was imprisoned until this moment came when Hitler, the tyrant of the Nazis in Czechoslovakia, was murdered. And the Nazis went crazy. And everybody who was that day they killed in Ligice the entire population, children, women, everybody. And then they started to also crack down on the prisoners. And Capek was one of those that was a target. Now, you have to know that Capek, he was a small man with a square face and had a big neck. And because of that neck, they took him for experiments by injecting pus into his neck to see how long it will take before he will die. And that's how he died. We know from the people who were with him, the fellow prisoners, who said, Capek was giving us hope. He was talking to us. He was helping us. He was uplifting us at the worst moments of our lives. And that was the end of Capek. Now, let me just say, if you knew someone so intimately as I knew, and if you saw how much this man was giving, you know, he was fighting on many other fronts. I don't have time to talk about it. He was for women's liberation. He was for sexual liberation. He wrote a sex book entitled The Marriage. But he wanted people to function at their best. And so I can give you just a taste of it. But if you knew someone so intimately, and that person was then killed in such a terrible way, it gives you the feeling that, as his last words were, don't give up, keep on the struggle, because the victory has to do with the revelation of truth and with the actualization of justice in the world.